All right. So the number one reason people do not buy a mobile home park and they really want to, there's a lot of reasons. But number one is their pipeline's dry, right? Like they're looking for the easy way out. And here's how I find parks is like I'll go to Google Maps, I'll pull parks in the area, I pull expired listings, I look for canceled MLSs, all that stuff. But people are on Facebook like, I want a park, I'm looking for a 50 unit, city sewer, city water, I want a 10 cap, I want this and that. Like, honestly, who the hell is sending you that? Right. If people are sending you these deals, it's like usually wholesalers that know nothing about parks. And I don't mean anything about that because like I wholesale, right? But like most people don't know how to underwrite parks. They don't know how to talk to sellers. They just want to get a contract and fish for a sucker. Like honestly. So, and honestly, like getting a good deal on a park is super hard because you got to know your stuff. Like it's plain and simple. You need to know how to underwrite a park, right? And I'm gonna tell you how I underwrite parks right here, which I just did a podcast on it. But I'll take the what they're making per month, right? Just real quick math, right? What are they making per month? Multiply that by 12, divided by 2 for 50% expenses. And if it's over 40 units, divided by 10%, which is a 10 cap. If it's under 40 units, monthly before take expenses. That's it. All right. If you one that then you got to really dive in. And if you're wholesaling it, you need to put this thing on a platter for somebody. It's got to be a good deal. If you're buying it, it's got to be a good deal, right? Like after you get it locked up, then you got the due diligence. I like to do 45 days due diligence. And during that, I'm getting the utility bills. I'm going out to the site or having somebody, whatever. I'm getting a survey. I'm doing the utility checks. Like I'm checking if that's septic, checking that. It's checking all the sewer, checking the electrical, getting inspections, spending money, right, to do all this stuff. Because like the last thing you want to do is like I met somebody a while back. They put their whole life savings. I meet a lot of people like this. They put their whole life savings in a park, and they were like, "Well, the owner told us this is how much they're making." When in fact they bought it, it wasn't the case. You know, we get T12s, we get financials. T12s are trailing 12s. There's a lot that goes into this, but here's the thing: is you have to be sure we get bank accounts. Like their bank accounts have to reconcile in other words, match the rent rolls, the T12s, all the stuff, right? All this stuff's got to happen. So just buying something that's going to make cash hand over fist doesn't just happen. You've got to make it happen, right? Like we bought a park, we've bought a few parks this year, but like one park we bought, we did all the diligence, everything. Once we bought it, I mean, these are little things. It's a badass park. Cash flow is awesome. But I'm just telling you, like, once we bought it, like the washing machine's all broke, right? And we have a third party company that pays us some money off of those, and they're supposed to take care of them, but they weren't doing a good job. And then like a few months later, I get a call that hey, your water line on one side of the park is on the next door land. It's been there 10 years, right? But just so happens they're developing land next door, so I got to go meet with them Monday. This stuff happens, right? There's people that don't pay rent. You have to train tenants, just like when you have like a single family rental. You have to train tenants, like if they don't pay after their grace period, you put the 3-day notice in Texas at least, and you file the eviction, right? And eventually they know you're serious and they pay on time. Well, imagine that times a lot of spots, right? That's why notes are really cool. Like if you can get, here's another thing is like, are the homes park owned? Are they tenant owned? It matters because if they're park owned, meaning you would own them if you bought it, you're going to have to do all the collections and the evictions and all that. What you want to do is transition those over into, tenant owned homes, and you don't have any of that, you know, like this one, like we have an RV park, but like they're permanent, like they're long term residents. Yes, we give them a license, not a lease agreement, but it's pretty fuzzy in the Texas law if they're long term, right? We had somebody that wouldn't pay us. We posted the 3 day notice. I didn't want to turn their electric off, even though we were able to in RV park because they had animals. And I'm like, well, it's not the animals' fault. You know, they don't want to pay us. But anyways, we got our money because we had to train them. We had to put the notice. We had to tell them to leave. They were like, damn, like these people are serious. We can't get over on these people. You know, we have. I've got one that's 140 unit that there were a lot of tenant owned homes and we're transitioning. I mean, park owned homes are transitioning over to tenant owned, and everyone that I'm putting in moving forward is all tenant owned, so we don't have maintenance. That's the cool thing about like mobile home parks is if you set it up to where the tenant owns the home, maintenance. Like then you just rent there. That is the way to do it. But if you want a deal, you better believe that you're gonna have to make it a deal. And you're gonna have to make it like be a good deal and a better deal and a better deal down the road. Meaning if there's value add of some sort, that's why you're getting a deal. Like you got, do you have to get the tenants paying? Do you got to transition them over to more favorable terms like notes? All that stuff. You know, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm looking for another park right now, and I'm reaching out to like 50 park owners a day at least personally, right? And we were pulling these from everywhere. And I'm calling them, hey, funny question, would you want to sell? Right? No, not really mass texting, just like and here's a really good way to do it too is like I'll drive parks, like local parks. I'll be like, hey, I really like this about your park. And I thank you. And I'm like, well, have you ever thought about selling? And then, it starts the conversation. A lot of little things like that go a long way. And I think people just underestimate it. Everybody wants one of these things. I'm teaching several people right now how to get them. And what they realize is it's a lot of work, right? It's just like if you were to wholesale single family homes, it's a lot of work. You got to make the calls. If you want to park, it's a lot of work. But you can't just not know what you're doing if you want to park, right? Like, and it's not like you go lock up a house for half a Zillow, right? Like, which a lot of people do and try to find a buyer, and maybe you're lucky. It's not like that. You got to underwrite it. You got to put it on a silver platter. And especially if you're buying it, you're wanting to get money. Especially, think about this. Like, a lot of times you're getting other people's money to buy these parks. All right. And when you're doing that, like you have to be a good steward of that money. Like you have to damn well make sure it's going to be a good investment. It's going to work out, for the people that you're getting the money from. You see all these, like, there's some pretty big names sometimes that, get popped on some deals or small names too that get popped on deals that nobody's immune to it, but you can't buy off a pro forma. And I think a lot of people, brokers, stuff like that, are pitching these deals on pro forma, meaning pro forma is like, hey, it could be worth this one day. You should buy it at this. It's like, nah, back up. What's it worth right now as it sits, how it sits? That's what's super important. All right. So, like, how much is it bringing in now? That's what you pay. All right. And to add a caveat to that, you know, I'll pay off of the income it's bringing in, but I'll also take in consideration if they own units there, what the depreciated value of those units are. I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm locking up a park today, and it's a mess. But you drive in there, and there's a lot of potential. Like it's in the middle of a big city, right? And like there's houses in there, like not just there's stick built houses in there, and there's trailers. They have so many vacant trailers. They have so many like junk trailers. They're bringing in 20 G's a month right now, and it's 20 acres of land in the middle of a big city. Like damn, like just the land alone, if you think about it. But it's so trashy, and they never hooked it up to city sewer. And I emailed the city, and they're like, "Yeah, you could hook that up to city sewer." And I'm like, "That's an unlock." When I was driving the park with the owner, I was like, "Hey, these are on septic right now, right?" She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Where are the septic fields? Where's the septic tank?" She's like, "Oh, they're all underground, and they all drain underground, all this stuff." I'm like, "Okay, where are they?" She's like, "Well, I don't really know. We just have to dig out pipes and locate them. I'm like, you haven't reached out to the county to like get a map? She's like, they don't show up. Like, wow. Like, I don't want any part of that. So that's why I emailed the city and I'm like, hey, can I hook up the city sewer? Because I don't know if they put these things in permitted or what. So there's just a lot of stuff, that goes with getting one of these parks. And that's literally why most people don't end up with one. And here's my biggest tip is like if you do want a park, like one, if you have a lot of money, just partner with a good operator. I mean, that's what people do with me, right? Partner with a good operator and just split it 50-50, right? If you don't have a lot of money, but you want a park, but you have some money, I would still recommend like getting a job that makes you good money because like you're gonna need cash still, or like learning how to wholesale or do something to where you can make good money. Because I don't think anybody should be broke and get a park. Not it's just a recipe for disaster. I know a lot of people push it. I think it's a pipe dream, but maybe it works for some people. I don't know how, but maybe. And if you really want to learn them and you just have like a some normal income coming in, you know, get with a mentor. Like have them teach you like how do I actually talk to sellers? How do I find parks? How do I underwrite parks? How do I keep my pipeline full of leads? Right? Because and then when you get someone like how do I contract this thing the right way? How do I make sure I'm getting into a good deal? How do I make it a good deal? What's the exit strategy look like? How am I going to get the money for this? Right? Should I raise it? Should I part like how what do I do? Right? And then once you have it, it's like, hey, how do I operate this park in the best way to at least keep it stable for now and to make it better and better moving forward, right? And then also all the way down to the refinance, the flip, the sale, whatever. But you need a mentor, which I do that too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate y'all hopping on. I hope this was some good advice. But I have so many people reaching out and they just want to know. And I don't like fluffing things up. I like to tell you how it is, you know, and that's how I see it. That's how I do it every day. Like I'm locking up a part this morning, right? So anyway, thanks for jumping on. Till the next one, we'll see you then.